Good morning and welcome. This is Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing, and I'm bringing you back for another great conversation on my series, which I call Enthusiastically Self-Employed. And I'm watching on my second screen in the background here, Claudia, because I'll get like the notification when you click go live, and then like the StreamYard and LinkedIn are communicating, and LinkedIn picks up the baton. And I'm always like, is it going to work? Is it going to work? And it looks like it's working. So good morning, Claudia. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. This is my favorite thing ever.
Oh, I am so excited. And we were talking in the pre-show about, the fact that we've been in conversations with each other rather for at least 3 or 4 months here. We were introduced by Val. And what's Val's last name? I'm blanking right now.
Often choose.
I will give her a shout out in the comments here, but
Hey,
Val
Val.
introduced us. I reached out and I said, hey, who should I invite on my show? And Val suggested your name and a couple others as well. And I always do like a pre-show, like let's get to know each other interview, figure out if it's a good topic, if it's a good audience overlap. And we had a great chat, and then it's been like forever. But I have to say, you've been like one of my favorite guests because you've interacted with like every single post. And as we get closer to the event, I start listing like the lineups. Here's this Tuesday, next Tuesday, the following Tuesday. And we're finally here. So I'm super delighted to be here.
I know, me too. I feel like we waited forever. And I'm like, every time you would post, I was like, I'm so ready for this.
I know, let's go. And here it is, like middle of May. So I want to invite our audience. This is like my mic tap moment. If we were on a real stage, I would like tap the mic and say, can you guys hear me? Is this thing on? If you're watching this live, we would love it if you could just drop a quick comment. If you could say hello, you could say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the day that you are. Or if you're watching this in playback later, we would love for you to leave a comment as well. That lets us know that you're watching, because otherwise we'll see that there's little heads that are in the audience, but we can't see who you are. It's almost like the stage lights are turned off. So this helps us to see that you're on. So thank you for doing that. And while you guys are dropping your comments in, I want Claudia, if you could take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are, what do you do, and who do you help?
Absolutely. Well, my favorite thing in the world is to help people, which is why I became a coach. So I am a cognitive behavior, confidence, and life purpose coach. So how I explain that is I rewire your brain to find your confidence to get you to your purpose. I'm also a speaker and a writer.
That's awesome. And so you and I came across each other through Val. And when I first asked you, I said, what should we speak about? And we were kind of kicking around some different ideas. And if you look at Claudia's LinkedIn, her headline says enthusiasm igniter. I'm like, oh, right away. I'm like, she's going to be an awesome guest. And we were kicking around like ideas, like, what should we talk about on the show? Let's talk about something. And you came up with this, how to erase self-doubt for entrepreneurs. So let's jump right in. I know there's a lot of people very excited about this topic, and there's been little rumblings of imposter syndrome and things like that in some of the posts and threads. So Claudia, what advice do you have for us?
The best thing I can tell you is turn your excuses into commitments. When you do that, you're automatically setting an intention that I'm going to do this no matter what, because those voices get in your head and you see things and you're like, well, I'm not doing that. But if you go, you know what? I am committed to myself. I am committed to my business, my company, my leadership, my teams, whatever it is. These are what I'm going to commit to. And when you write those down and you stick to them, they become your pillars. They become where you are goal-oriented, going eye on the prize.
I love it. And you sound like a very goal-oriented person. So when you say write it down, are you like a notepad? Are you like a planner? Are you a Post-it person, a whiteboard? How do you like write these
Can
things?
we say D, all of the above? Like I like stuff. I'm a Post-it queen. I have Post-its all over. Most of the time I have them with affirmations on them because those are very important with erasing self-doubt, to keep those going on mirrors, in my car, by the phone, anywhere I constantly touch and go. But I'm old school. I like paper. I'm a journaler. That's also part of my morning routine and my evening routine. But getting stuff out of your head is a great way to keep you from spinning.
I love it. And we're talking today about how to erase self-doubt for entrepreneurs. I kind of feel like, Claudia, like you've always had this level of confidence in what you do as a coach. Am I right?
You are correct. It's really actually kind of funny because when I was planning on going into coaching, I coached teams for years. So for over 20 years, I've coached leadership, and I was always working towards something else. And when I was trying to decide to start my coaching company, because people on LinkedIn were actually reaching out and asking me, hey, are you coaching? And I was like, I'm not doing that for this job. Like, that's not a thing. And I was like, what am I going to coach on? I coach on leadership. I coach teams. I coach all these different wellness things. And I was like, one of my team members, I was having a very sit down one-on-one with, and I was bringing her back from a place of spinning, of doom and gloom is what I call it. And she looked at me and she just kind of paused, and I said, why are you looking at me like that? And she said, I've never met anybody as confident as you. And I was
Wow.
there it is. So thank you. You figured out the kind of coaching that I wanted to pursue, because I'm like, this is what people actually need.
So how do you get there? Because I remember like growing up, I was always like an introvert at heart. And I remember feeling like if I was just more confident in myself, if I could just do this, I could do better and have more friends and do more activities. And I feel like even now as a grown up, right? I feel sometimes the little self-doubt creeping in every now and again. How do you not allow that to happen? How do you not allow that self-doubt to creep in?
You got to cheer yourself on. That's half the battle right there. You have got to be your best cheerleader, your biggest fan. When I have these moments, because even I do, like they pop in when you're doing something new, when you're learning something, and you have to say, no, I got this. And then you say to yourself on a regular basis, you got this, you can do this. Like you have to give yourself those pep talks daily to keep yourself in the game. Because when you do that, you go, you know what, I do got this. So you have to be your biggest cheerleader.
And sometimes that's hard though, because the journey to being an entrepreneur, it's not easy and it's not for everyone. And certainly it's not without its bumps, so to speak. You know, you might have times where your business is going great and then it's really easy to be your own cheerleader and you're like, yeah, this is awesome, right? And there's other times where business is not going as great. And, you know, maybe the market's taking a little bit of a turn, or, you know, whatever you're doing in terms of your outreach efforts or your lead generation or your visibility, they aren't producing. And then you start to go, and then it's a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Well, maybe I'm not all that. Maybe I've run out of people who feel sorry for me who gave me business, right? And now I'm gonna like figure out what I'm really gonna do, right?
I understand where you're coming. I understand where you're coming from on there. It's a whole situation of there's always more we need to learn.
Yeah.
And a way for us to grow. So I don't look at it as I'm not good enough. I look at it as this is an opportunity to try something different, to learn something new, for me to get more clarity on something. I mean, there was a lot of things I didn't know when I started. Like literally, I used to say I am the worst person in tech of all time. And I can't say that anymore because I've learned. I've had to go through and try to build things and understand social media and do all the things. And as I do that, I look back, and you have to reflect on a regular basis and see how far you've come, because we miss the little things. We miss the steps as we get through and we're walking through this journey. Our eye is always on the finish line. Well, look from where you started. Like I can say, I didn't know how to do a lot of things when I started, but I figured it out. And community helped me, you know, some wonderful supporters on LinkedIn. I would go and say, hey, I'm not sure how to do this. And they'd be like, let me help you. And they're always willing to help, but you have to put yourself out there. And being vulnerable was probably my biggest strength that I didn't have before I became an entrepreneur. I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at asking for help. I wasn't good at telling people how things were really going. But the more you do that, the more you connect with people who are actually going to help you on your journey, which makes the doubt go away.
I want to go back to that point for just, I know I just lost my train of thought now because I was just typing shout out to Val Roskin too in the background. You're like typing something and you're like your brain is on a train track, and I was on the track to say something and then I veered off to do the tagging thing and then I lost my train of thought. I'll come back to it. So I'll like keep going.
You want me to keep talking? I can do that. I can talk forever. It'll come back to you. It happens all the time. Basically, the thing that you have to remember is you're going to have those bouts of doubt. You're going to have those thoughts that come in that try to tell you that you're not enough. The way to your confidence is saying, but I can be. Because that's the thing, is you may not be there yet, but you can get there. You just have to believe in yourself. And that's my total mission, is to inspire people to believe in themselves. Because once you believe in yourself, you become unstoppable.
That is very true. I love that. And you, I mean, it's interesting because you have to get there. You have to want to get there and you have to believe that you want to get there. I remembered my question, which was about asking help on LinkedIn. And I come across this so often where people are like, I need this, I need that, or what resources do you recommend? Do you know anyone who, and they don't want to post about it on LinkedIn. And I guess, you know, we're here today talking about how to erase self-doubt for entrepreneurs. And it might feel like by putting a question out to the universe, you're admitting that you're not good at something, or that you have a weakness in a certain area. What would be your response to those people?
Well, first of all, everyone has a weakness in some area. That's why
Mhm.
we're trying to grow, right? That's the whole point, is we want to be better at what we're doing. You got to let that go, because all that's going to do is keep you from getting where you want to be. You're going to have to realize, number one, we're not all great at everything. We can get there, which is really cool. But there are people on here who are brilliant in areas that you're maybe not. So why wouldn't you just say, hey, everybody, I have a question. Number one, it's going to help you learn something. Number two, you're going to build a relationship with other people. Three, other entrepreneurs are going to go, this is amazing. I have the same problem. Because what you don't realize is, when you ask a question like that, there may be somebody in the background who's afraid to ask it. And that's okay. You're helping other people. It's not just yourself.
I completely agree. And I will often say I don't make mistakes. I have learning experiences. And then I will tell my audience, or I tell the person that I'm with what just happened. So that was, one of my recent learning just right now happened. Forgot the question I was going to ask my guest. Who would admit that? I mean, what kind of a host would admit that she forgets to ask a question? I will. I'll admit it. And what could I have done? Well, I've got a desk full of Post-it notes. I could have grabbed Post-it note and
But
written
then
it
you'd be
down.
like me and you wouldn't read it.
But I think part of it is, like you said, you're not the only one, and putting yourself out there. And sometimes what I've seen people do, Claudia, is instead of saying, I am looking for advice on X, Y, or Z, they'll say something in their post like, I have a friend, put in quotation mark, who is looking for advice on X, Y, and Z. What would you tell him or her? And they'll put a little winky emoji next to it. There's different ways of asking for help, but I think letting people know that you need assistance, or you need some expertise. I think there's not a weakness in there. I think that's actually a strength, right? Putting that out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're showing your vulnerability. You're showing
Mhm.
that you do want to grow and aspire. And therefore, if you're letting something that you need to know, that question, hold you back, you're not going to get where you want to go. So why don't you just put it out there and say, hey, it's me. I don't know. Somebody help me out. You'll be really surprised at how many people are going to go, I got you. Let's do this. The other
I
thing
just
that's
had a
really
Taylor
cool.
Swift moment for a second. I don't know if anyone else, when she was like, "Hey, it's me," I was like, "I'm the problem. It's me," right?
Put the song on. Let's start dancing.
So you were talking earlier about to-do lists and journaling. Do you, in what you do in terms of journaling, do you are you only focusing on goals, or do you also reflect upon accomplishments or those learning experiences? Tell us a little bit about that.
I pretty much do everything. I
Mhm.
do mind mapping, I do goals, I will literally just do brain dumps on a regular basis. I call them, things that are consuming your brain. You've got to get those out of
Hmm.
your head. So just write it down. I write about my feelings, I write about what's coming. I also manifestation journal. Like, I am a huge fan of journaling because I'm a writer. It's part of what I like to do, is get all that stuff out there. But I've
Mhm.
found that that's one of my biggest moments of self. It's a great way to reflect. It's a great way to see your growth. It's a great way to set those intentions and goals and say, okay, I've got them here. I'm a to-do list person. I mean, I
Yeah.
like to have my to-do list and my to-don't list, and like, okay, let's get organized here. I have to be organized. I'm very big on mapping my time. Why do you think it took me so long to get on your show?
So you just said something really interesting too, to don't list. Talk to me about that, because I've heard of it before, but I want you to tell the audience, what is it, why you should have one.
To don't list, there's a wonderful doctor. Her name is Lisa Williams, and she's a good friend of mine. And she once said, you've got to have a to don't list. And ever since that stuck with me, because I always had these massive to do lists just so that I wouldn't forget to do things. The
Mhm.
to don't list is really important because it'll keep you from going, I have so much that I need to do. Because we always have so much. And that gets you into overwhelm, which then goes into doubt and all these wonderful things that you're like, I hate this so much. But if you have a to don't list, there's things that don't need to be done right now. So if
Yeah.
you look at your list and go, okay, these are some things that I really want to do that maybe aren't as important as I should be dealing with right now. It's going to shift my focus. It's going to get me off track. They're going to go over here in the to don't list. It doesn't mean they're not a forever don't list. They're a don't list for right now. Because one of
So
the
give us a
biggest,
couple of examples, because I'm like, I feel like I kind of know what you're talking about, but give me like a couple of examples of what would you put in your to don't list.
it could be legit anything. It could
Mhm.
be, us, I'm scheduling all of these things. Do we need to do that today? No, because we have a deadline maybe that we need to
Mm.
get done. And so that's more important. So it could be, okay, well, I come home and I've got all these things I need to do for work, but I've got all these, I call them domestics, that I need to get done. And I don't really want to do any of those things. Do I need to do laundry today? No, I can do it tomorrow because I really need to focus on this. The problem is we get into these loops of, I have to do all these things. You don't have to do them. You need to do the things that are the most important. So pick 2 off your to-do list and put the rest on the to-don't list. And you can come back to those later, because eventually you'll run out of things on your to-do list. So then you can pull something from the to-don't list and go from there.
I like it. That's really good. And we're talking today specifically to entrepreneurs, the people who are self-employed, coaches, consultants, speakers, authors, other solopreneurs as well. And what's interesting is when you're no longer working in a corporate environment, you don't have a 9 to 5, so to speak, where you're coming in and there's meetings that you have to go to and there's annual performance reviews and there's all these, status reports. When you're self-employed, you're really accountable to yourself, and you've got to be really good at disciplining yourself. And you might sometimes notice that you go onto Instagram to post, and then 30 minutes later you find yourself watching black lab puppy videos. Hello, this is just me. I don't know. But I'm like, wait, what happened? I've got to do some others. And you have no coworkers that are bustling around you going, are you watching black lab puppy videos right now? I'm like, no, why? But I think the to don't list sometimes has to contain the even like social media, like when are we going online on social media, and how long are we spending on there, and don't spend 30 minutes watching black lab puppy videos.
Yes, the rabbit hole forever is screwing around on videos, is what I like to say. When you go on social media, I'm just going to be on here a minute, and then you're 2 hours later, you're like, what have I been doing? This used to happen to me when I was like shopping for something. I'd be like, how long have I been on here? What's going on?
Right.
Reminders and alerts and alarms in your phones are huge, because when that thing goes off, that means put your pencils down. Like, it's time to get back to what you were supposed to be doing. So I'm a big fan of that, because that will keep you from falling off track as well.
I like it. So time blocking, is that what you're referring to?
Yes. Time blocking, alerts, reminders. And I even block time like for myself, because as an entrepreneur, you also have to fill your cup, because otherwise you're going to run 24/7. There's all kinds of things to be doing. I make time. I'll book off hour. I'll book off a whole day. It says, look, this is my day. This is my hour. This is my time to do what I need to do. And I'll go for a walk, or I'll go do an errand, or I'll go spend time with friends or family. Like, whatever that is that fills your cup, you need to make sure that you're making time for that, or you're going to burn yourself out.
And it's so true, because I think sometimes we get our nose to the grindstone and we're just like, got to make more money, got to find more clients, got to do the thing, got to build my business, got to grow my website, got to post. And so keep going, keep going, keep going. And then we find ourselves with no space of just breathing and thinking and meditating and allowing even like some white space in our life just to like process everything that we've done. And then, things start to spiral a little bit and we get back into the self-doubt. Well, maybe I'm not all that. And, maybe my clients, I don't really appreciate. We start to get into this negative spiral. And I think sometimes allowing yourself that space for yourself. I love that expression that you said, we got to fill our own cup. It's so important. And when you're growing your own business, and I don't know if we ever stop, right? If you're ever like, okay, I'm here, I've got the flag at the top of the mountain, I'm here. I don't feel like we ever stop that. Would you agree with that, Claudia? We're always kind of continually climbing.
It's who we are, right? Like, we're always looking for something new, and we like change, and we're going with growth. And so there's always more and more and more things to keep going for, which is amazing. But at that same time, that's easily how we can get into overwhelm. So when we learn that, you know what, we're important too. I did a show a few weeks back with the Dr. Summer Watson, and she made a really, really cool point. And she said, you have to treat your business just like any other business. You have open and closing hours. And I was like, that really made a lot of sense to me, because as entrepreneurs, we tend to work around the clock because we can.
We do.
But we don't have to. Like, that's the thing is, if I say, well, I'm going to start at, 8 o'clock and I'm going to finish at 6 o'clock, or, whatever, you can set those hours for yourself and then don't break those boundaries, because that's where the other thing comes in. If somebody's messaging you at 2 a.m. and you're responding back, you are setting that tone that I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that. I prefer sleep, and sleep is very important to me. So I will not be responding to your email at 2 a.m. I will respond to it when I am open for business.
That's a really good point, setting your boundaries. And I even learned when I got into my own business, I started setting my hours in terms of like when I take appointments. I'm now scheduling between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. because I get my daughter off to the bus stop. I go take the dog for a walk. I do my morning routine, and then I'm ready to go by 9. Before that, it's a little bit of a crunch. I've done some 8 a.m. appointments, but it's like I feel like I'm a little off when I'm fresh faced at 8 a.m. instead of made up and things like that. But and then the 3 p.m. is the same thing because I've got bus and shuttling kids to activities and things like that after. But then to your point of having a schedule, because I'm in a shorter day in the middle of the day. Sometimes after I get all the kids in activities, like 6 to 8, I'll do a little bit more work sometimes to catch up on things. But beyond that, it's laptop closed. And even when I close my laptop, my dog's like, if I close it right now, she knows that we're going for a walk. She's like, okay, mom, let's go. We're going for a walk. But you got to really have those boundaries and set those for yourself. Now, do you work on the weekends, Claudia, or are you Monday through Friday only? What's your?
I mean, my schedule is kind of tricky because I also am an executive director for a salon and spa. So I work there sometimes as well, and I'll pull weekends and stuff too. So for me, I have to balance my schedule very, very appropriately because otherwise I'll work all the time.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I'm like, but there's certain times I can disappear for long periods of time during the day. I'll come back and then I'm going to work because I need to work with my clients. I need to work other things that I'm doing. So yeah, I have my hands in a lot of pies, which I like because it's fun. But at the same time, I also need to know you can't just work all the time.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Like as much as I love what I do know I need to recharge. I need to rest. I need to actually, get other things done.
Yeah, no, totally. And I know there's a couple of people that are watching right that really know me, and they're like, she just said she's got all her hands in the pie, Brenda. You're not going to comment on the pie reference. Yes, I'm going to comment on the pie reference. So if you follow me and if you know me, you know that my catchphrase is I say I help business professionals and job seekers get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie, and I've got a book with pie as a part of it. I always feel like it's so nice when my guests mention the word pie without me like provoking them to do
and
it.
that wasn't even intentional.
It wasn't. That's like the best part. Like when it's not intentional, when they just slide it in and the people are like, oh, somebody said pie. Is Brenda going to comment? Yeah, I'm going to comment on that. Give me a minute. I'll get to that. But what we're going to start to do is change gears. And I want to invite our audience into the conversation. So if you're watching this live or in playback, I would love to see your comments, your questions for Claudia. We've already had a lot coming in. I'm going to start to pull this up on screen. And I see Val is on with us. Let me pull this back a little bit here so you can see here. Val is saying asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. Rather, it allows someone else to share their strength with you so you can learn and grow, a win-win for both.
Yeah.
Any thoughts to add on that, Claudia?
Absolutely. You have to let go of what you think weakness means because weakness isn't a bad thing. It means you have something more to learn. It's not this thing of you're not good enough. And when you change and reframe your mindset on that, it opens you up for so much more.
Absolutely. And I see a lot of folks that are popping into conversation here into the thread as well. We were talking earlier, kind of along the sign of asking questions is not a weakness. And I'm trying to find it from Kenneth Lang. He said, yeah, like asking for a friend. I can't find it, Kenneth. But I see you in the audience, Kenneth, and another comment. So I'm going to pop that up here for you. There was another person that had asked a question, and I'm trying to find it right now. And part of the reason I'm talking as I'm doing this is there's going to be folks that are listening to this in the podcast later, and I want to make sure that I'm reading the questions out loud so you can hear what we're putting on screen. I'm going to find it in a second, but I'll put another one from Kenneth on screen while I find that. Kenneth is saying it's no different than being afraid to ask that stupid question in a work meeting. And I get that a lot. Like people are like, I have a stupid question. And I'm like, there's no stupid questions, right? Sometimes our people are afraid to be the one who raises their hand and asks that stupid question. What's your advice for them, Claudia?
I agree with you that there are no stupid questions. And when people say that when I'm leading a workshop, I'm always like, great, I love those. Bring it. Because it usually is something that is so profound that no one else has thought of it. And then you open that up, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I didn't think about it that way. Or I've thought about that too. It just really opens up dialogue for people. And it sets the tone that when you are actually taking the charge and being the first one in that conversation that says that, you're letting everyone else in the room know how I am going to respond to it or how the other leader is going to respond to it. And when that person opens it up and says, yeah, bring it on, then everybody kind of breathes a sigh of relief, takes their guard down and goes, okay, I've got things to say too, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like when people say that too, I always say, you know what? We as human beings are not that much different. And if you have a question, chances are there's at least one other person in our audience that has that same question as you right now. So thank you for asking that on behalf of them, because they were scared to raise their hand, and you did, and you rose your hand and you brought it up. So there are no stupid questions. There are brave people who raise their hand, who ask what other people are wondering. And this is I'm going to shift gears to Jean now. Jean mentions, if you want to make a difference versus making a living, self-doubt becomes a non-issue. Ooh, that's a good one. What do you
Yeah.
think about that,
The
Claudia?
power of purpose. Absolutely. When it's just a task to you, then you're going to start believing in doubt, right? There's a different way to do it. I'm not doing this right. But when you start to go, my purpose is to help people, or my purpose is to whatever your company is, it changes the game for you. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I love it. And Jean, thank you for making that point, because I think sometimes, especially when you're self-employed, you're like, for me, I hate feeling like I'm selling, because it feels like icky to me when I'm selling. But when I feel like, well, I'm helping people use LinkedIn more effectively, which is helping them to be more successful in their career and in their business, I'm doing them a favor. Like when you shift from that selling focus to the why focus, when you feel like you're making a difference with who you're helping. I love that, Gene. So really great point there. All right, here was the comment I was looking for earlier from Retha. Hey, Retha, how are you? And Retha says, for me, it comes in waves. I'm confident for a few days, and then I'm not so confident for a few days. She kind of shifts back and forth. What's your advice for her, Claudia?
Well, number one, you're human. So that is going to happen. You are not alone on that island by any means. Two, if you're a journaler, or you can write however you want to, if it's voice record or whatever, the days that you actually do feel like you're in your power and you're feeling super confident, write down what that feels like, what you sound like, what you look like, what you're doing, what part of your body you're feeling it in. Write those things down, because then you can get it back when you are feeling less than.
I like that. That's a really good point. Like journaling and talking about it. I even have, like, sometimes if I take photos of myself on those really good days, I'm like, I remember what I was feeling of myself in those photos. So I love that. And journaling about it, what you feel like. Where are you feeling it? Is it in your heart? Is it in your head? Is it in your toes? Where are you feeling that? Right. Let's see another comment. This one's from Joey. Hey, Joey, thanks for watching. Joey says, every professional was an amateur. What are your
Yes.
thoughts on that, Claudia?
Absolutely. I mean, literally, think of all the famous people in the entire world. They had to start somewhere, right? Same thing goes for you. We're all just on that race to the end, so to speak. So start enjoying the steps in between.
Yeah.
Learning is so fun for me. I love learning. I go to classes all the time, conferences, read books, whatever it is. And different perspectives make me really think. And it's so neat to go, wow, I can do this now because this person did that. So let me see how I can figure that out. It's just like it's the Rubik's Cube, right? We're putting the pieces together on a regular basis until we match where we want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like I love that Rubik's Cube analogy.
I'm
You can
dating
immediately
myself on that, right?
No, not I think there's, like, those are, like, their
That's
retro toys are coming back. If you go in, like, by us, it's Target, like, there's the toy aisle at the holidays, and, like, the Rubik's Cubes are always there. They're always there, and every kid has one. I don't know. So I see a comment from Pam Lippett. This is really weird. It's on LinkedIn, but it's not in StreamYard, and I'm not sure why, but I wanna read this because I think it's a good question. I wanna see what your thoughts are. Pam asks, "How do you help organize your clients so you don't have to work on the edge of deadlines?" And I think she's talking here about, working evenings and weekends and in your off hours. So what are your thoughts there about organizing your clients? I'm going to pull Joey's comment off screen here as soon as I can find it.
Well, if you're doing your time blocking, right, you're
Mhm.
not going to put anyone where you don't want them to be. And if you stack your books, that's what I call it. How much time do you need in between? So let's say you're doing a
Mhm.
meeting and it's an hour call. Give yourself an hour and 15. Then you've got 15 minutes in between to catch up. And then you can
Yeah.
stack right underneath it. So instead of going, okay, 1:15 to 2:15, you could say 1:15 to 2:30 or
Mm.
whatever, so that you have space in between to work on something or take a break or whatever it is you need. I like to stack hard between 10 and like 4. Just
Mm.
go, go,
Mhm.
go, 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 go. Take a few breaks in there. But when you do that extra 15 minutes, it gives you a minute to get up from what you're doing, stretch, walk around a little bit, get a drink of water, all the things that we need to do on a regular basis. Put in
Mhm.
lunches for yourself if you want to.
Okay.
Put
Yeah.
in times to go exercise. do whatever it is that you want to do. But if you know that there are non-negotiables for you on when you don't want to work, stop booking things in those spots.
You're doing it, right?
You're doing it to yourself. Nobody is in charge of your calendar but you. So if you are upset that you are working until 9 or 10 at night, then stop doing that.
Yeah. You're doing it to yourself. And I think sometimes, Pam, when I hear this, we're talking about organizing your clients so you don't have to work on the edge of debt. Like, yeah, we do it to ourselves. And I think sometimes when you're self-employed, and Claudia, you've probably had this experience too, you want your clients to be happy. So when they say, how quickly can you have this done? And you have to think about the time as a spectrum. How quickly? Well, I could have it done in a half day. Realistically, it'll take me a week. But when the client asks the question, how quickly can you have this done? Stop telling them I can have it to you tomorrow. Start telling them it typically takes a week. Sometimes I can get it to you sooner, right? I think it's like a little bit of setting the expectations. Would you agree, Claudia?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get where you whenever do you want it or do you want it to be okay? Because if I tell you I'm going to get it to you by the afternoon and it's just like, this is a mess, I'm throwing right out to you, that's not me putting my stamp on my own work.
Yeah.
And I want to do that. I want to say, I'm putting my name on it. This has to be great. So by saying, okay, so I can have it to you in a week. If I get it to you sooner, great. And most of the time I do. But for the most part, I'm giving myself grace, which is really important. It's not just about what you're turning in. You can always turn in your homework, right?
Yes.
But you want to check your work? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Under promise and over deliver. That's absolutely a gene. And I see there's like a Venn diagram that goes around too. Or it's you can either have it, let me think if I get this right, fast, cheap, or good.
I
Pick
love that.
two. You pick two. You can't have all three. It can either be fast and cheap, or it can be cheap and good, or good and fast. I don't know. But I think there's like variations of that are kind of floating around. All right, let me pick up one or two more in here. Here's one from Elizabeth. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you? It says, in my corporate job, I never did sales. And it sounds like she's self-employed now. I never did sales in her corporate job. So I have created a story that I'm not good at and I don't enjoy sales. Would love your thoughts. Claudia, advice for Elizabeth on that.
Number one, you got to stop telling yourself you don't like sales, because that's part of an affirmation. You're basically saying, this is my intention. So start telling yourself that you do like it. Here's the magic thing that everyone forgets. Every single thing in this world is technically a purchase, right?
Yeah.
You are either giving your energy, your time, or your money to something. And you don't go and put gas in your car and expect not to pay for it. So think of what you're offering is a necessity for someone who needs it, and they owe you some type of currency for it. Sales doesn't always have to be money. It's the goal, right? Obviously, we're trying to make money in what we do, but we have to think about time and energy as well. And when you are going anywhere, you go to the grocery store, you're buying food, you're buying it like it's happening, and you're doing your market research by reading all the labels and all the things. If someone has come to you with something that they're like, hey, I like what you have to offer, they know they're going to have to pay for it. You just need to be comfortable knowing you have to give them something in return for what they're paying for that's worth it.
I think it's a really good point. What you're really talking about, it sounds like there, Claudia's value. So Elizabeth, maybe instead of saying I'm not good at sales, start shifting. When you hear yourself saying that, start saying I'm really good at delivering value in terms of workplace wisdom. And I just pulled your profile, Elizabeth, to pull a couple of those keywords. So shifting it from I'm not good at sales to I'm really good at delivering value in workplace wisdom, like reframing it a little bit, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Reframing into positive affirmation.
I love it. And I see so many friends that are in here supporting us. I want to thank
Michelle.
Hey. Do you know Michelle too?
I do know Michelle. Michelle's brilliant.
I feel like all of the really cool, amazing, supportive people know each other. The more you get active on LinkedIn, you'll see like all these great people. And John Asperian, do you know John? John's over the pond in the UK.
Hi,
you got to be following John. John is the relentlessly helpful LinkedIn nerd, I think is his tagline. And he's got an amazing community. And he's sharing today, data dispels doubt. John is like the king of data. John, that's the first interaction I had with you when you were like breaking down and analyzing your LinkedIn data. And he says, when you're self-employed, you get data from taking action, right? Therefore, action helps you get rid of doubt. Any thoughts on that, Claudia?
I am a big believer in action. Absolutely. When you're in action mode, you don't have time to think about anything else because you're actually doing something. It shifts your mindset. So yes, absolutely. Get into action. Get in there. Get messy. It's okay. When you're doing, you're playing, you're experiencing, that's when things start coming to you. And when you get out of your head and you start getting into what you're doing, the cool things are going to start showing up that you're like, oh, I learned something from this because I stopped thinking about all the things I couldn't do. And I started getting my hands dirty and realized, whoa, I'm actually really good at this.
Yeah. Yeah, it is like just taking action and getting more confident and comfortable with it over time. There's another comment I'm gonna pull up. This is gonna be a longer comment, and it reminds me a little bit of it's actually covering the whole screen. So I used to say like the longer comments. I'll pull it back up in a second, but I used to say the longer comments reminded me of there was this TV show called Home Improvement where Tim and his neighbor they'd be like talking over the fence and you'd only see their eyeballs. And it used to be in StreamYard when you pulled up the long comments, it would like truncate them down and we'd be like looking over the top, but now like the longer comments are filling the whole screen. So I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to summarize a bit on this. But Lori, thank you so much for watching. Lori is saying that has a career path that she thinks she's meant for. People are telling her that she's good at it. She's had some small starts and stops and never really made that progress. So some of the things holding her back, it's going to take some training, education, certification to build that expertise. And she's saying this whole self-doubt and imposter syndrome is really what's holding her back. I'm going to remove that comment, Claudia, and ask you to speak to Lori on this. What advice do you have for Lori?
It sounds like you've got a fire inside you that you're trying to put out. So you need to ignite it. Get excited about it. No matter what you do, you're going to have to learn. No matter what you do, you're going to have to adapt to a new skill, figure something out. Like that's not new. But if it's something that's in your heart that you totally want to do, pursue it. What's it going to hurt? Would you rather pursue it and go, you know what, maybe this wasn't for me, than to never know and have regret from it? Because regret is forever. I would rather try and fail than never try at all.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think sometimes, Lori, what we do to add to what Claudia just said is what we do is we're like, we dip our toe in the water and we're like, it feels a little cold. Maybe I'll just go back to the warm beach again. And, and then we go out and we're like, it's the water is fine, Lori. It's super refreshing once you get out here. And in terms of like holding your back because of the training and certification, 5 years is going to go by anyways. So if it's going to take you 5 years to get that degree, to get that training, get that through, just start chipping away at it. And it reminds me a little bit of Claudia, the movie The Shawshank Redemption, where he has got the poster on the wall and the guy throws a stone at the poster and there's a hole behind it. I don't know if you are familiar with that. So it's like in the movie, they talk about time and pressure. That's all that it takes is time and pressure for him to break out of the cell, so to speak, and for you to get on your path of being successfully self-employed. Would you agree with that, Claudia? And anything you want to add to that?
Absolutely. Everything is going to take time, no matter what it is. And the more you grow from the time I started to where I am now is a completely different place because I had to learn a lot of things. I had to be visible. Nobody knew who I was, but now I'm everywhere. So this is the thing is you have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable because that's going to be part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, Lori, I hope we inspired you. I want to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to pull up your LinkedIn profile up on screen here, Claudia. And I want to ask you as I'm doing that, are you open to connecting with people? And if so, do you have any instructions if they visit your profile to connect with you?
Absolutely. I love meeting new people. The more people like I said, I can help, the better. So shoot me a DM and just let me know if you want to talk, want to set up a meeting. I would love to just chat with everybody. I actually like to get to know my connections. So send me a connection. If you want to put in the notes that you saw us here on Brenda's show, that would be awesome. But yeah, I'm up for it. So if you're interested, let's meet each other.
All right, awesome. And Claudia, I know that you've got creator mode set up on your profile, and part of the reason I know that is because you got the hashtags at the top of your profile where it says talks about coaching, wellness, confidence, empowerment, and inspiring others. So for our listeners and viewers, if you go to Claudia's profile on LinkedIn, by the way, it's Claudia Wyatt is the spelling of her last name, Claudia Wyatt. If you go on her profile, the default button will be follow. If you want to connect with her, you can, but you've got to click on the more button. And then underneath that, in your view, you'll see an option that will either say personalize invite or connect. Do click on add a note and mention that you saw her on the interview, and just mention saw you on the interview with Brenda Meller or heard you on the podcast with Brenda Meller. Mention my name in there when you do so, if you could. And then also, if people are interested in working with you, I feel like, let's tell people a little bit about what are the products and services and things that you do. And as you are telling us a little bit about that, I'm going to pull up your website up on screen.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit, if someone's interested in working with you, what are the things that you do?
Well, I have several different coaching methods that I work with, especially for confidence and empowerment. But life purpose, if you're trying to get where you want to be as an entrepreneur, just like you want to dip that toe in the water, happy to help with that. I do a lot of custom work because we're all different. One size doesn't fit all. So I have all kinds of different options for that. I do speak for organizations, groups, conferences. I also speak in settings for corporate. So if you want to do like a workshop, that is my jam. If we can get down and get dirty and get into it, you're not just listening to me talk, but you're actually putting action into those steps. That's one of my most favorite things to do. And then I also write for, publications and things as well. So if you need anything, come to me. I'm happy to help.
I was going to ask you earlier, because you said that you like writing. Do you have a book yet?
No, it's
yeah. Did you hear me say yet? Not like, do you have a book? Do you have a book yet?
It's coming. It will come eventually. I started the book at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, which means I haven't gotten back to it yet because I've been doing all these other things. I keep messing with it. So I'm not quite there yet, but eventually that thing will come out. I just haven't put a deadline on it yet.
All right. So I'm going to have our audience pile in right now in the comments and give Claudia encouragement, because I feel like I know you have so much knowledge. And I feel like when you talk about public speaking, I'm like, she would be an amazing keynote, wouldn't she? I mean, don't you guys agree? Like, I just feel like the energy is like really evident in this interview. The inspiration is just dripping from her right now. And I just feel like she'd be such an amazing, and I'm like, she's got to have a book. I'm sure she's got a book, but maybe you all could like drop a comment and encourage her on that book writing journey.
Yeah, light the fire, right?
Hurry up the fire, right? Hold the mirror back up to her. All kidding aside, this has been such a great conversation today, Claudia. I really appreciate you coming on with us. I want to see if you have any final comments for folks on erasing self-doubt for entrepreneurs.
Don't get lost in the doom and gloom. There's always a silver lining. There's always a positive way out of whatever you're in. But when you get lost in it, you're going to stay in it. So you need to be able to say, you feel it coming on, you hear those words, no, this is not true. I can do this. And the more you keep telling yourself that, the more you're going to believe it. I want you to take that walk for yourself and say, you know what, this is me. This is what I want to do. I'm going to learn new things. I'm going to have pitfalls. I'm going to have missteps. I'm going to have celebrations. But this is me. And I'm going to show up as me and do my best every day. And when you do that, you've committed to yourself that you are in the game.
I love it. Great advice. And so many great gems in here too. I mean, there's a lot of things we have in common too. The Post-it notes, the words of inspiration that focus on positive mindset, surrounding yourself with amazing people too. So many great things. So I want to invite our audience, if you liked this conversation, before you leave today, drop into comments one thing that you learned that you're going to take away from this conversation. And here's another thing you can do. If you have not yet posted on LinkedIn this week, this month, this year, you could, as soon as the video is done here on LinkedIn, there'll be a share button that will pop up. Go ahead and click on share and share it along as your LinkedIn post. And when you do so, tell people something that you learned or why they should watch this video, right? And then tag Claudia and myself when you do so. Use the @sign, the little @sign, type in our names, and it'll tag us in the post when you do so. And the benefit of that is we'll get notified that we've been mentioned in your post, but also that will push the post out to a portion of our first level network. So it'll help you to extend your reach as well. So such a delightful conversation, Claudia. I do hope that we have the chance to meet in person. Maybe we'll be on the stage at some event someday together, and we'll have the chance to chat, right? Until then, Claudia, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your passion and expertise with us. You've been an absolute delight.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. And thank you all for tuning in. Much appreciated. Hope to see you around.
All right, everyone, stay safe and stay healthy. Reminder, I'm here every Tuesday through the end of May. In the summer, I'll be going to twice a month, but you can find me always Tuesdays at 9:05 a.m. And I look forward to seeing all of your continued progress and your posts as well on LinkedIn. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.